before I blow your socks off with the next wave. Because here is where we get into some crazy waves that some of you will not even believe are possible. This wave here, I call materialization. And in the same way that when I was saying mobiles, everyone's going to have them, they're going to wear their tech, people are like, yeah, that's probably 10 years away, and it's happening within 2. Here now is something which when I first heard about it 2 years ago, I thought that can't even be possible. And it wasn't even called materialization. I call it materialization. Other people out there call it 3D printing. But it's something when I said this is going to be impacting all of us, even more than the wave of the internet. Even more than the wave of the internet is going to transform everything, and it's now on our doorstep. So any one of you who decide you're going to make your business and your life about this, well, we're going to be seeing the next multimillionaires in this room right now. Because what this is about is the fact that you can print anything, anywhere, in real life, just like on Star Trek, where you can materialize something. What you're seeing there on The Economist is printing me a Stradivarius, which is actually line by line, a printer that's actually printing up something which is just from a computer program that works as well as the Stradivarius. And you know the whole story of the Stradivarius is like, you've got to have a master craftsman that does it to make the right sound, and how here all of a sudden a computer's doing it. It's like, and from anywhere in the world it can do this. It's like, really? Is that possible? You know, this actually goes a lot further. There's guitars that people print now, there's jewelry people print. You can now get printers for like $1,000 that you can print things on. Here is an article which came out just last week, or in the last week of February. This is China, where it's now taken to commercialize. So what's it saying here? China prints the American F-22. This is a military plane in America. Guess where it's made? In China. In China. America's there talking about how, like, you know, China's one of our biggest threats. It gets this plane printed in China, right? It's like you look at the bottom of the plane, it says made in China. So this is where you can see here the additive manufacturing, which is 3D printing, not only lowers the cost of titanium parts, it brings it down to only 5% of the original. So the same part which was being made for what was effectively 20 times more the cost is now 5% of that cost, which is transforming with the way everything's going to be made. I mean, you're going to see cars available for like less than $1,000 now because they are not produced by having massive factories that have to mass produce things with all this equipment and robotics. They can just print it straight out. Print, there it is, right? And it basically prints it in 3D. You can see here that not only that, 40% weight reduction because it's now doing it specifically what's required. Over 40% of now a lot of the military planes that exist, even the big commercial planes, are now 3D printed. They're just kind of printed for what's needed when it's needed. You can see here in China, these are like printing machines that you can get. So effectively, someone in China who's got a tractor that breaks down, whereas before they'd have to ship in the part, they'd have to wait for the part to come. They might lose their entire crop for the year because of their breakdown. Now they can just go straight to their computer, straight to their 3D printer when they have it, and basically print out that one piece, and then plug it in, and off they go. You can print in metals, you can print in plastics, you can print. They're now printing houses that you can print. You can now get your own your printer in your house for like $1,000 to print doorknobs, to print shoes, to print a hat if you wanted. Whatever you want, you can print. You know, print your girlfriend. I don't know if that one works yet. This here is Pinocchio. Pinocchio basically allows you to actually have a printer that prints out things like here's a clock and so on. You can then sell, it's just like an eBay for whatever you want to design for yourself. Here is something called MakerBot's Thingiverse, where you can print out toys. There's a remote control car you can print out. They've actually just worked out how to print electronics, including silicon, into silicon chips, so effectively in the future you don't have to go and buy or wait in a queue to buy your iPhone. You can just print it from your own computer and have a new iPhone. Yeah, and it works. And it works. And if you don't basically, of course it changes the whole dynamics of it because you don't have all the component parts, you just print it. And then if your printer breaks down, just print a new printer. So, so this basically is a whole new way of thinking about things, because how much money goes into costs like shipping? How much money goes into the costs of us actually importing and exporting? What happens to governments that are putting so much of their effort into trying to control their borders for what gets printed? One of the biggest news stories that have been happening in America with all the storing guns is the number of 3D printed guns that are showing up. So it doesn't matter how many regulations you have in a gun store for people buying them or not, when someone can just print them from home anyway, it makes no difference. Right? So this ability for us to print anything, whether we're printing credit cards, whether we're printing money, this allows us at the deepest level to be able to print. And this goes beyond this. I mean, this is on the one hand what you can now buy for $1,000. It's the same as the days when you could laser print. It's like, what? I can actually print my own color copy printer. Can you remember the days when the idea of actually printing something in color, you'd have to you had your dot matrix printer. That was only like 25 years ago. And then we're like, oh, now we've all got our own color printers. It's easy. And the same thing is happening now with us being able to print and produce anything. Now, what's interesting about this is you kind of go down this pathway and you say, well, where does that take you? In the last week, MakerBot, which is one of the leaders on this, they've now got a scanner they came out with, which means you can scan anything and then print it out again. So you can replicate anything that you want. You can buy one mug from the store and then print a whole bunch of mugs. Right? So basically, and it saves you a huge amount of time, money, effort, everything. But where it gets interesting is when you realize that we're at the nano level, you can print anything. I mean, one of the guys that we met at Singularity University, which is on the NASA Research Center in Silicon Valley, he came up with a picture of the periodic table. And he says at the nano level, I mean, these are at the atom levels where you're actually taking materials and printing them together, like level by level. But he was basically showing the entire periodic table and saying this is our canvas because we're printing at the atomic level and we're just like creating at atomic level things that are out of anything, which effectively means we can produce any material now. Which one do you think we're experimenting on first? And we were like, gold. Make gold, make lots of gold. And he goes, well, actually, no, we're using carbon because we figured carbon would be more valuable. We'd learn about life forms and how to print living things, but also, of course, we can print diamonds. And he showed us a diamond sheet where they're actually printing diamond sheets, which then can effectively become commercially available in the because they've got the same atomic structure as an actual diamond. It's not a fake diamond; it's an actual diamond, right? That you're printing now. So basically, you take that, you take it one step further. And these are some big companies now that are getting into bespoke printing of prosthetics, where you're getting exactly the right design. 90% chance when you go in and actually get a new enamel filling, or if you get a replacement tooth, it's going to have been 3D printed nowadays as opposed to it being cast. And that goes for your entire head. 3D printed skull implant ready for operation. This is March the 7th. So this is all like cutting edge, latest things happening today. When I was talking about this 2 years ago, I was saying this would happen. People were like, yeah, that's going to be 10, 20 years ago. And here we are 2 years later, and they're now doing it. Here you've actually got 75% of your patient's skull can now be replaced. And this is like regulated by the US government now. And it's actually happening. Here is, on the right, 3D printed jaw used in transplant. An 83-year-old woman. I mean, this happened in the Netherlands. Like in Europe and China, this is where they're actually ahead of this game. They're ahead of America because America's got too much. And in fact, Australia also has a huge amount of regulations on all sorts of things. So you've got to go to other countries. An 83-year-old woman suffering from chronic bone infection received a lower jaw transplant of a 3D printed jaw made out of titanium powder. I mean, not only does she have one which is perfect for her jaw, it's made of titanium. She's got a more powerful jaw than anyone else in her family. It's like, so what does this mean? Does this mean that all the days of kind of like having problems of hip replacement and joint replacements are over? Of course it does. It means you can print your entire skeleton, right? And if you can print your entire skeleton, what else can you print? Here on the left, need human tissue? Just press print. This is from Financial Times. And this is where now we're actually at the stage where we've figured out in the last 2 years how to print our own blood. So the days, again, commercially, it's coming down. I mean, we can do it now. We just got to bring the cost down. But in the next couple of years, we're going to see the cost fall dramatically. But it really does mean the days of blood transfusions, not having enough blood, blood infections from transfusions are all over, because effectively you can have your own blood. Skin, you can print your skin, you can print capillaries, you can print all the parts of your body you need, and then now basically getting to the level where you can actually print organs as well. So effectively you can print another body if you wanted to. And this is not something which is 30 years away. This is something in the next couple of decades. It means effectively you can replicate yourself. Now what's interesting about that is you think a couple of decades ago, it was like 1980s. And we remember 1980s, it doesn't seem like that long ago. So in a couple of decades it's going to go pretty quickly. And we're going to see more and more of this kind of thing happen. And those of you who are like, I really don't think so, this is how fast things are moving right now. I will take some questions. I know there's people like, I got a question about this. But let me just share this video. I thought this was funny because this just went up last week. And I put it up like in the first two. And I'm just showing it because it's like when people get what this is about. This is a video which is from an international news station where the woman reporter, she's talking about this whole bioprinting, which is what we're talking about here. And she starts getting a bit hysterical about it because she's like, what is going on here? So I'll kind of get to that point, but if I think she's getting a bit too crazy, I might stop it. But you get an idea of just how this thing works when you see her little report here. So let's give this a go. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So, any immediate questions around that? Any questions or comments? Yes, on the front. We'll just get a microphone over so we can hear the questions, because this is not the last of the waves you're going to be surprised by. But let's just see what shows up.
How do you think it will change copyright?
How would it change copyright? How do you reckon it will change copyright? Do you think you can copyright anything? I mean, look at what's happening with anything digitized today. Music, for example. I don't know how many of you got kids. I don't know when the last time my kids bought anything out there, and basically they just share things amongst themselves, and at what point is sharing with your family different from sharing for your community, sharing for the world? So that already is the biggest issue, and I, for one, do not recommend anyone that I'm working with spends a huge amount of time and effort on copyright unless it's something patentable, because frankly, you're much better off creating a flow of things for the future than trying to protect something from the past, for sure, yeah. But good question. Yes, there's a question right over there.
Hi, I asked you this question last year, and I'm wondering if you've got any new information on it. When are we going to hear about 3D atomic decompositors rather than just printers, so that we get that whole cycle thing going?
So what do you mean by decompositors?
The recycling level of 3D printing. So we're getting 3D printers that can print from multiple materials.
Yes.
When do we get the things at a consumer level that can actually identify the components at an atomic level, pull them apart, give us new materials?
Right.
Printer.
Yeah, so I mean, the same way they've now got a scanner that can actually scan the forms. The next thing is actually saying what's the raw material and what's the point at which you can bring it back down. And I mean, most of the time when you're actually looking at how you go about disintegrating things, you're either ending up with more toxic waste or you're ending up with something which isn't useful in any way. Like, incinerators are like that. They kind of like just create, more carbon deposits, and it's like, well, how do we manage something with this? Those will all be solved, and then you've got more raw material to be able to build more out of as well, which means effectively you can take anything and turn it into anything else. So there's no question technology is going to allow us to do that, because we know enough and have enough understanding of things to make that work, which actually means that you can fundamentally take pretty much anything and turn it into something else. Yes, you can basically, when your grandmother dies and she goes in a little urn, keep her in an urn, but you can also turn her into a really nice little mantelpiece if you wanted to. I don't know if people do that, but anyway. We've got a question at the front, yes.
Things that are liquid. What about things that are liquid? Could that be repeated at some level in the future, do you think? Like, all of these are solid things, but if something was in liquid form that
Such
could
as?
Yeah, I don't know. Certain products, that are...
So, for example, if anyone wants to go have a look at something like Modern Meadows, that's the modernmeadows.com. Have a good look at that. Modernmeadows.com is a company that was established recently and then funded by Peter Thiel, who's one of the founders of PayPal, and he's put a bunch of money into this. What Modern Meadows does, it prints meat. It prints meat. It basically, the whole vision is that no more death to any animals, because if you can print meat which has got the same protein structure, which is actually made from meat as if anything, but you're actually printing like really good sirloin now, and it's delicious, and it's as tender as you need, and it never ever got created from an animal, but it's basically a meat structure, and it's got blood in it, which is liquid, and now you've got something which you can print. Can you print vegetables? Of course you can print vegetables, same thing.
That's what I was wondering.
So effectively, everyone can print their own food for whatever food they might want, because you actually have it at that level. Yeah. We'll come over this side first, yes. We'll just take one or two more. I just want everyone just thinking about how things transform, or how it transforms everything. Yes.
Roger, I'm struggling with the concept of print. Why wouldn't it be copy? I just keep getting these flat images. It's not, it's a very unusual way of describing print.
Well, it is printing, because you're printing pieces and putting them together, basically, right? But of course you can start with a copy, but it's like a print that can be a copy as well. Yeah. I think that's just a definition thing.
Yeah, I just find it odd.
Yeah, at the back.
When they sell you the printer very cheaply and then charge you a fortune for the cut.
Yeah. But can you see how anyone can produce anything? So it actually stops anyone from saying, well, we're the only ones that can produce it. This is the difference of going from the power of production, which is the basis of an economy. The power of production is like whoever has got the factories and then can mass produce are the ones who are in power. But the difference of power of production to power of consumption. The power of consumption is where you actually realize is whoever has the networks or the communities. Let me ask everyone here a question, right? Think about this for a moment. Imagine that tomorrow, not just everything you didn't have to buy, but really money itself became worthless. I mean, like, really imagine that tomorrow money became worthless. Imagine the Australian dollar, you can no longer exchange it, you just can't, and no one uses it for anything anyway. But the same for every other currency, US dollar, pound, you just can't use them anymore, which means any money you have in the bank, worthless, no point, right? Any money in the property or whatever, that means nothing. Any money that you owe people, like on credit cards and stuff, it's nothing, it's just gone, right? All of it's gone. Right? And you can't do any work for money at this point because no one's figured out what the money is. But you just wake up tomorrow and there's no money. Nothing. No way to exchange at all as far as money goes. And it's the same for everyone in this room. My question is, how would you feel? Okay. All right. Okay, so first of all, let me ask, who would be kind of like pretty upset by that? Wow, okay, there's only a couple of hands that go up. All right, a couple of hands went up. Who would be okay with that? Who'd be kind of relieved if that happened? So why is that? Wouldn't you worry? It's like, oh, I haven't got any money anymore. No? All this time we're chasing money and that's gone? Freedom, you say? What?
Opportunity to work it out the right way.
Opportunity to work it out. Opportunity to work it out the right way. So what is the right way? How would you work it out? I mean, trust comes into it, right? I mean, do you think that we would all just give up and keel over and die, or do you think we'd figure something out? We'd figure something out, right? Sorry, say again? Oh, we would figure out some way to do it, right? And let's imagine that we were like, saying, well, does anyone know how to grow food? Anyone know how to... We'd probably have the skill sets to figure out some of that stuff, or at least we'd have people do. But who do you think has the advantage at that point? Do you think it's whoever the day before had lots and lots of money and whatever? Or do you think it's whoever had already built the most trust? Yeah, right. I mean, of course you got that advantage straight away. So I'm shifting this thinking on this from materialization to this thing here called immaterialization, which is the opposite side. It's actually saying, what is material could actually be immaterial. That our chasing for the money is a bit like chasing the ball in a game of football, thinking the point is to kick the ball. The point is not to kick the ball. The point is for you to have your team have an experience of winning the game, which is different, and that does not mean chasing the ball. Often it means actually just becoming the opening for the ball and working with your team so that you can help them out. And if you think about it that way around, which is pretty much what this game is, we're talking about doing it the right way. Well, what if tomorrow you woke up and even though your money is still worth something, you just started doing it the right way? What if you actually said, well, my job today is to build trust. That's what I'm going to do today. Because the day after, who knows? Maybe money's not worth anything. But if I actually deliver trust in a way that's effective, and then people then actually see that I'm serving them in certain ways, and then they'll do the same for me, and as we go forward, I'll look for those people that actually get that. And if there are people that want to come and screw with me and take my money, well, that's cool. I just want to work with them. That's fine. I'll work with other people. And as you do that, you start building these circles of trust, this is how I do my business. That's how I work every day, is I don't start saying, how can I make money? I say, how can I be of service to people out there in an effective way, which means that I can be exchanging something and that they will reward me for that because whatever value I'm delivering, they might only give me 10% in money, but it's still something. And if I deliver 10 times more value than I ever wanted in money, I've always got enough money. So this is interesting because we somehow have, with money, especially when it's in lack, have ended up thinking, oh my gosh, we need more, or I need it to get going, when we've already got abundance around us. And it is a mindset shift, and it becomes apparent the minute we actually get rid of the money. So start from that place and start thinking from that place as you move forward. And realize that the biggest thing you have, which is your most precious asset, you woke up with the same amount as Richard Branson or Bill Gates, which is your time. Every day we all wake up with exactly the same 24 hours. And for most of us, the real issue is not that we're wasting our money, it's that we're wasting our time. We're just not investing our time in a way that is really valuable. And there's ways to make sure you do it. So what I want to share with you right now is just a simple way that you can actually take your time, and even tomorrow, knowing that you're as wealthy as me, as wealthy as anyone else here, and anyone out there, that we all wake up at the same time, that there's a way for us to design that to ensure that we actually get the result that we're looking for. And until we start there, there's nothing else even worth worrying about because the time's already going in the wrong place. So what I do is I actually look at it from the point of view that you can actually look at things in terms of time and place. It's the two of them together. There was a time in the past where there were all sorts of different training you could go on. And this is only about 30 or 40 years ago, which was based on action. And all of the training based on action was all very much like, okay, sell to someone in this way because if you say this, it makes them do that. Okay, make sure that if they have this objection, then you can actually counter that objection with this. And it was all like ding dong, where we all kind of learned those basic things. A lot of that stuff still shows up at school and in management programs. But this action here, at some point, we realized that's such a small part of the story. Because one person you can say this and they do that, but someone else you say this, they do something totally different. So that doesn't work. So then something else started showing up where you started realizing that there's something, and this is all the basis of behavioral sciences, which showed up with NLP and a whole series of different host of things in the 1980s, which is behavior. Which is like, but if we can condition someone's behavior, then they will take the same actions again and again every time. That's where we hear about Maslow, we hear about people like Tony Robbins that are constantly like saying, right, get into peak performance, right? Get into the right behavior, and then your behavior will then inform your action. Well, guess what? At some point we realize that's not the story either. Because there's some people that suddenly transform their behavior in ways that before they've been trying for years and years and years, and then suddenly happen. What went wrong? What changed? And what changed was something which turned up about 10 years ago, which is experiential sciences, the experience. Where someone goes, my goodness, you know, when we get people in a room and they have an experience, they all change their behavior for life. Right? If someone has a religious experience, they change the behavior on all their beliefs. Right? When we have an experience with a company, which is just the most amazing experience, then suddenly our behavior of that company has changed, and our actions all changed and were informed by that too. So this all shifted, and it's very interesting because when I started building my community, social entrepreneurs about 10 years ago, this was where we were at. And I was like, great, well, look, all you need to do is create this kind of experience with a group of people that want to make a difference, and here is how they would then have their habits change based on that experience. But what I've learned in the last 5 years is what really shifts everything is not even this, because I see kids go into a school with a teacher to learn and get a certain experience, and they still don't come out the same as kids that go into a school in the same class with the same teacher in a place like Green School. What is different there? Why is it that some of us, we're there working on our business and trying to put strategies together, and as long as we're in our office, we're not getting that result, but the moment we all go on a retreat somewhere, we suddenly get all the answers. What's happening there? And the answer is that there's something above experience, which is your environment. Your environment, because this is the difference of the old way was working from the inside out, turning your world from the inside out. This is the outside in. It's the opposite. It's saying if you actually want to change something, don't start from the inside. Start from the outside. Start from your environment. And this changes everything. I mean, think about it. We are all creatures of environment already. We can be chatting away. We walk into a library, and suddenly the moment we get in the library, we go quiet. Well, how did that happen suddenly? No one even spoke to us, and suddenly, because the environment changed, we all went quiet, because we know we're meant to be quiet in the library, because libraries are for reading books, and we just get that. Right? But same thing, you might have a miserable day and you go off to the dance club, but when you go to the dance club, what happens? Because you're in there and the music's going and everyone's chatting and it's all great, suddenly you have a different experience. And so your experience is led by the environment that you're in. And when you change your environment, your experience becomes natural, because you do not find many people in a dance club reading books. They don't do that. And not most of the time, you don't find people in a library dancing either. It's like there's certain places where things are appropriate. And the places where you are there to experience your greatness may not be at your desk in your office. Could be somewhere else. In fact, what I found is that there are 5 different elements within our body, which is what I've been talking about all this time, where if you don't have 5 different energies and 5 different environments, then you're shortchanging yourself. There was a time when everyone was doing cubicles. Cubicles are brilliant for metal environment, winter environment. You got your cubicle, you got your order, you get stuff done. But it's not a lot of fun, and you don't have a lot of creativity. Why? Because it's only serving one of the 5 energies, which is winter, which is metal and discipline. So what happens? Everyone goes open plan. Now you've got open plan, which is what? It's wood environment, it's creative, it's spring, everyone's creative now. Can anyone actually get anything done? No. It's like everything's just, so we have this crazy situation where we are going from one environment off to another, or one activity onto another. If you are trying to do your spreadsheets from the same table where you were taking phone calls, that's like going from metal energy, which is winter, which is like ice cubes, to suddenly the phone goes, and now you're going to fire. You're having to melt the cubes to kind of change your energy to kind of go, hello, how's it going? Oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then once you're up to fire energy and you get into it, you put the phone down. Now you've got to go back to ice again. It's like, oh yeah, where was I again? And what happens is we spend most of every day, and our stress levels and our energy levels goes towards changing energy, not the energy itself. It's changing from one to another, wondering why it takes so long to get from one thing to another. Does that make sense to everyone? Geez, it's like we are making life so difficult for ourselves because we're not going the natural path. So the key thing here is to say, right, I'm going to go through a natural path where I understand my energy levels, and I'm actually going to design my day and my week so that I make each day a masterpiece. This is how I do it. And you don't have to do exactly the same as me, but I've designed this over time where the first thing I'll do is I'll actually plan out my entire year, right? So I have a yearly calendar where, because I'm at blue level, which means that I spend a lot of my time basically looking at different businesses in different ways, I will plan out every one of my mentoring sessions ahead of time, every one of my board meetings ahead of time. I plan out my magic time with my children ahead of time. I plan out the holidays and put all of their schedule in there as well. And I say, if I was to finish this year like this way here that I've designed it, would that be my perfect year? Would I look back at the end of the year and say, that was an awesome year? And I'll make sure I design it that way so that it is. And it doesn't mean it's perfect from the point of view that I'm just having a cruisy time. No, because there's things that have to happen to Roger for Roger also to be challenged, and for him also not to end up being complacent on things. Because one thing that I've done, which I've noticed that a lot of people who are at the high level of success do, which is where I got the model from, is that they design themselves not as one person, but as a triangle. You can go to anything. You can go to the Indian Hindu culture, and they have the Trimurti, which is Brahma, which is Vishnu, which is Shiva. You can go to the entire, Christian culture, and they have Father, Son, Holy Ghost. You can go to pretty much any culture around the world, and you find that there are 3 different beings that coexist, that create all of totality. And if you take yourself, I'll take myself here, I have 3 of me. And it's kind of weird to explain, but I've explained, I think you'll get it. I have me, Roger the actor. This is the guy who shows up on stage every day, right? And I don't mean this stage, I mean on the planet Earth. And this is the guy who kind of like is totally in his emotions. He's like gets upset by things. He like tries his hardest. He has all those same things that human beings do, because this is the human being here. And this person basically, he's either going to show up accidentally, which means he's just going to do what he does, or he's going to show up deliberately because there's someone else showing up over here called Roger the director. This is the guy who every single week will check in and say, right, we got another week on this planet. That's good news. But what we're going to do with this guy, Roger, this next week, because look what's happening to him right now. Things are going well, things are going great. Yeah, we're going to bring him down a peg or two, right? Or it's like, oh, this guy here is like, he thinks those things are tough, but it's actually not that tough. We're going to take him on this journey here. It's always the actor who is the one who is the most clueless about what's going on with him. You notice that in the movies? You're watching the guy and he's like, oh yeah, things are going fantastic, they're going great, yeah. And you watch the things happening in the movie and go, he's in for a fall. Yeah, everyone knows it. They're all watching this thing and they're like, yeah, obviously he's going to have his fall in a moment. Or like things are terrible and they're all crying because something terrible has happened. And you're like, it's okay, the movie's going to turn around, it's going to be fine. And if it's not, then you get angry at the movie. You're like, this is a ridiculous movie, I shouldn't have paid money for this movie. It's terrible. Because we know what's meant to happen in the movie. But the actor doesn't know, the actor never knows, right? That would spoil the fun. So I, every day, wake up every day into a world that was already designed by me, by this guy here at the beginning of the week, where he said, right, what's going to happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What's the plan here? How do we do something where we can actually put him in front of people where he can stretch himself? How can we do things in such a way he's going to learn new things? And I'll have a lot of fun with this person here who's totally detached. If this guy's having a hard time, this guy does not really care. It's like it's all part of the story. In fact, the last thing he wants is a story that no one wants to watch. So he's going to make it something where actually you've got the ups and downs of being a human. And then there's this person up here who actually can step back from all of it. And this is Roger the witness. This is like the guy watching the movie where he shows up. And he shows up every evening and he shows up every morning just to have gratitude for the fact that he can even watch this thing in the first place. That he's here to be totally aware of the fact that spirit is at play. And he's totally aware that there's a human experience that's taking place. And he can just actually stand from the outside and just be in awe at the majesty of it all. And this is how I live my life every day, because if I didn't, I'd end up doing the worst thing, which is actually thinking I'm another card in the pack. I talked about the 52 cards in the pack. And the 52 is the 52 weeks. The whole thing's based on our calendar system. But isn't there a 53rd card? What's that one? The Joker, right? Doesn't the Joker trump everything? So unless you are the witness, unless you're the Joker that can trump everything. And by the way, the Joker is the one that doesn't take himself too seriously, right? That's the one that doesn't like say, oh, it's all terrible. It's the one that looks at the whole thing and says, the whole thing is a movie that we're here to really love while we're here, because we're not going to be here forever. And when we do that and we shift that change in the thinking, it shifts the whole way we look at life. So what I do is I have a yearly schedule, I have a monthly schedule. I make sure it's one that ahead of time I love the look of and I get excited to even jump into. And then every week I have a weekly schedule where you could think, well, at what level do you do it to? My experience is the higher up the levels, the more it granulates, which means at infrared level, like the whole year just merges into one. But by the time you get up to indigo level, you take the Richard Bransons or the Obamas of the world, they've got their day broken down into 5-minute sections, right? Because their time is so valuable. So they're like living a lifetime every single day. And they're actually having a ball doing it, and they have all the freedom to do it because they've actually designed in whatever they want to achieve. It's all in there as well, but it's at that level of granularity. It's like high definition television, which has the same signal coming in as a black and white. You just see something very different because of the tuning. And this one here, at this level here, you then get down to a week where the way I design my week is I actually have looking forward to every day with the space for that day. So I will have like 7 days where I'll have the weekend, which tends to be my family time, and then I'll have 5 days, which is one of the 5 elements. And the way I design my days is I have my Thursday is my fire day, so all my mentoring, all my calls are on fire day. All my teams and all my businesses know if they want to get hold of me, this is the day to get hold of me, right? And I get into my fire energy, and I just love that day because I'm speaking to everyone I need to speak to. And if I want to call someone to speak to someone, I'll make sure it happens on Thursday, because the other days I've got other things happening. right? I'll go from the fire, which is like the fire energy, and then I'll move from the fire, and I actually work backwards, which means the day before, and this is because when I want to speed up my life, I go forward cycle. When I want to slow down my life, I go backward cycle, which means before fire is wood, and I would actually take wood the day before. I do it on Friday because I'm a creator, and if I leave wood to the end, if I start wood at the beginning of the week, I've just got 100 ideas and I'm building a whole bunch of stuff. If I have it at the end of the week, I have something to look forward to, but basically it's right into the weekend, and I'm basically not creating things through the week, right? So basically use your wings, like my creator wings are my secondaries, which are star and mechanic, and it's a bit like flaps on your wings. When I say I'm going to spend more time on my star, which is promotion stuff, and mechanic, which is system stuff, it clearly means I can't be creating more things, and it slows me down, which allows everyone to catch up. And then when I'm ready to go, then I pull these in and I just fly, and that's when I'm fully in creative mode. And then I'll do 10 times more on that side. So I'm always managing my energies to actually make sure I'm pacing with everyone around me. And so the wood energy is when I actually have whatever book I'm writing or whatever thing I'm doing, I put myself in wood energy. And I have a space to go. Like at Vision Villas, if you come here, you find this is a pavilion, which is actually the one energy that can actually replicate all of them is water. So if you come to Bali, you find there's lots of water gardens. So when you come to our pavilion, which is our wood pavilion, there's a spring there which actually has a high frequency, because this is all attunement with your brain. And when we have that frequency, you just get creative. You can't help it. So that's where I've written all my books. And then we get to the fire energy, which is a different pavilion, and we've got like quadraphonic sound. We've got 4 fountains, and it sounds like a cocktail party. And you would just find whenever you come to Vision Villas, that's the place where everyone just sits and chats and comes up with the who questions. And then we then go from the wood. By Monday, I'm at water energy, which is about my why, and this is I have a different energy, a different space for that. So this is basically my Monday. My Tuesday, I'm going backwards to my metal, which is where I have all my accounts and my finance meetings and so on. And I'm looking at kind of like whatever I have to get detail done on. And then my Wednesday is my earth energy, when I have all my team meetings where we're talking about the when and the where, not about the what, right? So there's a cycle to it, and there's a process by which I always follow, which makes it me, like every day I'm looking forward to, because we've got exciting things that I've already got planned or I put in place. And I break down every day into half-hour segments where ahead of time is done. Then Roger the actor shows up and off he goes, and just basically, lives the life that doing the best job he can do within this parameters. Wherever I go, I create these spaces. So for example, when I came here to Melbourne, I started by saying, where's my water energy going to be? There's a beautiful spot just on the other side of where the park is, next to the cricket ground, where I found a really great spot, which is where I go every morning. I go there at 6 in the morning for my water energy, half an hour, which is when I'm at my witness stage, right? So it's not the same Roger that's sitting here right now. And I go through that space, which is then just seeing where I'm at and where I'm going for the day. And then basically I had a metal stage. I have a metal piece which is actually in my room where we've got the desk, it's all clear. Talking about clear desks, the best way to have a clear desk is to have 5 desks. Have 5 desks where each one of them is doing different things, right? So I have a clear desk, which is my metal desk. It's like there. There is no, when I come in and there's a phone on my desk and it's my metal desk, like when I come to a hotel, I'll unplug the phone. I don't need the phone. I'm not going to use it. I don't want people phoning me, so I take it out. And then as a result of that, that's my metal space, and I'll take out my spreadsheets, my details, what I'm doing, and I'll put it up and clear, so that becomes my metal space just when I need that. I have an earth space, which is when I'm speaking to my family. It's when I'm actually, and there's an area which is down at the spa, which is on the second floor, where I kind of create that space, and no one's ever there when I'm there, and it's got a really nice feel to it, and that's where I basically, have that connection and have that grounding. And then I have fire energy, which is with my speaking time, my chatting time. I have 2 of those. One is on this floor, and one is on the floor below. If I'm ever showing up on either of these, I'm in talking mode, and I'm willing to chat and share with people, but that's not the same as where my other energies are. And then I have wood, which is my creative space. And that's where I'm kind of like really thinking about all the things that I want to do. And I've got a wood space, which is also outside. And there's a park bench, which is down to the left, where they have amazing trees. And I sit there, and that's my wood space where I'm doing my creative stuff. And at the end of every day, I'll go down there at sunset if I'm able to actually have a space there, because I love my wood energy, to have that space too. I look forward to moving from one energy to another. And whenever I get in the energy, I don't have to wait half an hour to get myself up to speed. I get straight into it, which means every day I save myself so much time and effort, no stress jumping right into it. And I will always make sure, before when I did all things in one place in my 20s, everything would merge into everything else. And I would always find that one thing I was doing for too long because I wasn't getting on to the next thing. So I was chasing my tail the whole time. But when you know you've got an appointment with who, the most important person you can have an appointment with, yourself. And it's like, oh, put another point with Roger. Oh, another point with Roger, right? I show up to that Roger who's at that space, and I'm ready for the meeting at the time I'm meant to be there, even if it means I have to cut short with something else I was doing and I didn't finish it properly. I'm okay with that. Just like going to a meeting, or I show up for the next one. Does that make sense? Yeah? I have 8 questions I ask every morning without fail, which is my witness questions. Would you like to hear what they are? Okay, so here's my witness questions, and I'm sharing this because some of you are taking other actions out of today, but I want to make sure at the very least everyone is realizing that the definition you play your life at is going to define the results that you get. I have 8 questions which are all about show up, which is about being present, step up, which is about lifting your level to a higher standard, and give back, which is about how I'm interacting with the universe. And the first question, number 1, that I always ask every morning, and this is where I actually take myself into a space. Every morning I get up at 6. I will not schedule anything before 8 or 9 o'clock. I'm giving myself the space where I've actually got that first step, and then I go exercise, do something. But where I get that first step where I'm going to ask these questions, and I found over time, questions work for me better than mantras, because mantras generally, you kind of like, your unconscious just gets used to them, so they don't have the same impact. Questions always have different answers, and I don't even know what they're going to be until they show up. Question number 1 is, what am I grateful for? So gratitude is the key into your spirit. And what am I grateful for is the question every morning that I ask that you might think would be obvious what the answer is, but it really isn't. It's often things that really surprise me. Often if I had a hard day the day before because something happened, you know, a conversation I had with someone or something I wasn't expecting, sometimes I find that's the thing I'm most grateful for. The second thing is a who question, not a what question, which is, who do I love? I love this question because I put this down here because I wanted a who question when I first started doing this about 10 years ago. And the who question was, again, sometimes it's the obvious thing that shows up. It's whatever shows up in my mind, I then meditate on that. But often it's whoever it is that I would have the day before had the least reason to love, right? Because it was someone who just kind of like annoyed me or someone. But then like the next morning after I was like, next morning I wake up, who do I love? And the head pops in their face is right there. And I'm like, oh, they're not so bad, they're nice. And suddenly I've got a whole different energy around that person, right? It just dissipates. And then from the who do I love, the third one is the why question, because why opens something up which is quite powerful, but it's why in the most present form possible, which is, why am I so happy? This one is my lifesaver, because I've had times in my life when things have been really, really tough. And I've had times in my life where I've kind of gone through lows which I never thought were possible, because when you're further out at sea, you go super high and you go super low. And things that, you know, you think, oh, that's so unjust that's happened, and this has gone on, that's gone on, you know, lose all your money. Just so much can happen here. But when you ask this question, why am I so happy, it presupposes you're happy. I can't ask it without actually just smiling, because it just makes me think, well, of course I am. Compared to times in my life when things have been really tough, I actually am happy, and I always find a reason why. And that just puts me in a state for the whole day where I've shown up to be present as a witness to this journey that we're on, that I've got another day on this planet. And that takes me to the step up, where I then have number 4, what am I committed to? Because what am I committed to is about a commitment to being more than just hanging around. What am I committed to is about changing something, shifting something, making something happen. And often it's a thing that I'm actually not I'm neglecting, something that I should have been looking after, which I wasn't. And someone might have criticized me for having not looked after something, and now I'm actually saying, you know what, I'm going to commit to that. And even if it's not my energy, it's okay, because I have other people that can support me in it, but I still need to be the one with the commitment. And the next one is, how committed am I? Because the key thing is sometimes you're committed, but it keeps on showing up every day. And so this one puts an end to that, because you realize you've got to be more committed, and it might go from 100% to 120% to 200%, and eventually it just gets done. And so as a result of that, you never hold on to anything you shouldn't be holding on to. And then the give back is the fun stuff, where I have number 6, which is, what is my intention? And what is my intention is sometimes for the day, is sometimes for just a general intention for life. But this is the kind of like, you know, me to the universe saying, here's what I'm putting out there for you. And it's a clarity of thought of, if I was to have something happen as an intention, what would it be? So for today, for example, I had an intention which was to be as much value to the most surprising people I can find. And that was an interesting one, because it meant that I actually had to look out for surprising people, right? But that was the wording that came up when I came out to work out this morning. And then number 7 is, what is my wish? Which is kind of like, okay, now it's the universe's turn to show up with something for me. And this is like one of the most amazing, magical questions you can ever ask, because it's amazing how often that comes true. What is my wish? And then the final one, number 8, which is the biggest one of all, is, why am I here? And as you can imagine, sometimes that's about a specific day, and sometimes it's about my entire life. But it's always the one that always centers me and gets me ready for the day, not taking myself seriously, but committing fully to the life that I'm in, to be an example and to make it the most that I can make it. So this is how I have my surfboard in a way that no wave can impact me, in a way that I can't be of value to the wave. And this is the way that I choose to live my life, because by doing that, it means that every day I can be of higher value rather than actually end up taking myself seriously and then become of less value to people, because it all becomes an emotional journey, which isn't of help to anybody. What would you do within your journey? How do you go about setting up every day of your life? I'm going to give you a moment to just share with the person next to you either something from what you've just heard from how I go about designing things, where you're going to make a commitment of some sort to how you're going to actually do yourself a favor and clear out the stress or clear out the worries by designing your time and valuing it in a different way. And if you happen to do something already today that you'd like to share with that person, to say, hey, here's something that actually works for me, share that. The intention of this is that every one of us ends up in a better place in knowing what we can actually achieve by just managing our time and our place more effectively. All luck comes from being in the right place, right time. That's what this is about. Any immediate questions or that come up from this? We have a question just here.
Hi, I have two questions, if
Sure.
that's okay. The first one is looking at your Thursday, where you said that's the day that you choose to have contact with people, do your coaching and all that sort of thing. How do you manage that with a global business? I mean, you'd be starting your Thursday coaching on Wednesday evening and finish Friday afternoon, depending on whether you're talking to people in America or London.
I've chosen to work predominantly between a time frame which works for me, which means that I have people all the way from Japan on one level, all the way through to UK. With America, those who are on, they get on weird times. But within my time frame, I'm still within the waking hours of Bali, so I'm happy with that, right? And that's why I don't choose to, take people that I want to be speaking with directly at different times.
Okay, so you make yourself available at that window.
Exactly.
And your customers fit in with you.
That's right. And others are willing to fit in with that as well, because if they want to work with me, that works.
And it works?
Yeah.
People fit in? The second question was, on your 8 questions that you ask every morning or every day, the answers to those questions, do you share them with anyone, like your partner, for example?
Only if they ask. Renata knows I ask those questions all the time, and she knows I keep everything in a journal, and she knows everything I put in the journal comes true. And so, generally, as a result of that, once in a while, something will be happening in the world, and she'll go, is this in your journal? And I'll go, no, not yet. And she goes, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't do it. And if it is, you go, oh dear, that means it's going to happen. And so, because we've lived with each other know enough to know like how you can manifest or how when you can be some clear about what's going to happen, it just ends up happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll just take another question over here, and then we're going to get on to the next wave here.
So with the days and the energies, that's designed for a creator type. What's the system for shifting it for the different
I think what's important is always to know that whatever is your energy is the one you're going to tend to naturally spend more time in if you had a choice, right? So by knowing that, it's really important to use that in such a way that incentivizes you and others. I mean, sometimes when I've got a long day of like mechanic stuff or things that I know I need to take over accountability for with my team, then I would actually put like little creative breaks all the way through it, where I'll have 15 minutes or 20 minutes where I know I'm going to head off and create something and then come back, and I'm re-energized every time when I do that. So just knowing what yours is, and either starting your week with that because you want the week to go faster, or finishing it because you want the week to slow down, or you want your pace to slow down. That's the main thing to keep focused at. But I change it myself as time goes on, because I'm always sensing where I'm at. And the most important thing is knowing that every business that I have is at a different sense in the cycle. Some are spring season, some are winter season. So knowing where my business is also means that I don't spend a lot of time in the ones that I'm not going to serve. And that's why having multiple businesses for me works much better than just having one, because then I'm not being a liability to the business. I'd love Matt to share, actually. I'm going to ask Matt Ryman to say a few words here, because I know he started organizing his time, and as someone who actually has now a school in massage and an entire center. Matt came a year ago to Brisbane, and do you want to just share your journey? Because I know you've heard a lot of this already, because we've been on the mentoring together. But yeah, what your journey is and what your results have been as a result of it.
Yeah, sure. I guess firstly, Roger, I think I'm thinking about just taking up surfing instead, by the sounds of it. So it might be pretty easy. But I guess from where I was initially when I heard Roger a year ago speak, and since then I've been working with him for over 6 months now. I went from initially, I'm a sports physiotherapist by trade, and I went from initially being really busy and running a practice up in Brisbane to now mapping out my days hour by hour, half an hour by half an hour actually now, We've, I guess, installed a lot of the principles and learned a lot from the tools and techniques that Roger talks about here, and everything down to using your days to building the right team. I now actually have specific job roles that I'll profile before I even interview a person. So I know exactly who I want to attract for that role, rather than doing it the other way around, which is fantastic, and that's been really successful. We've now built up over the last couple of years. We've got multiple clinics, a 7-figure business, and staff that's running a green level business for me, which is fantastic.
And your time, in terms of the amount of time you were putting into actually having to physically be there doing it all yourself, compared to now how you're evolving your time?
Okay, I haven't been in Brisbane for about the last 6 weeks.
Right.
So
like a year ago, how possible would that have been?
A year ago, I was probably working 60 hours a week treating clients. And I guess probably one of the biggest things I've really found from working with Roger is a lot of the things he talks about with your personal profile and finding your identity has been probably one of the biggest key things for me. That took me a while to get my head around, which is good. Like Roger talks about up there with having 3 Rogers, there is 3 Rogers in your ear from time to time, which is good. But it means that you're really able to achieve what you set out to achieve. And the big picture for me, and a lot of other people, if there's people in the room as health professionals, is we really care about helping people. And my vision for being here is to be able to help the world become a pain-free place, and really want to help as many people as I possibly can live without pain, and just to find yourself, I guess, and getting to a point where I am now, where it means I can actually help a lot more people, and can do what I love, and I've actually really found my flow, whereas initially I went through I was at a yellow level business when I met Roger, and now can spend a bit more time in areas which I like, in future medicine, and a lot of the stuff that Roger spoke about before is where my brain lives and I find fascinating, and they're doing some absolutely amazing things out there for people. And one of my big visions is really trying to, I guess, I set my goals as by the end of the century to try and have this world pain-free. Awesome. So that's my big vision, and I'd love to get there, and I think to be able to free up some time, and that's a really big passion for me, and I'm really in my flow. But using all the tools and everything here, literally down to mapping out my time, I've been able to set up a really successful business that runs well, that helps more people in the world. I now also coach other health businesses on how to be professional and successful, which also helps more people, and working in the future medicine space too, which will hopefully help everyone save the world. So
very cool, awesome.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Roger. I'm sure you guys can all appreciate how much Roger gives here. So big thank you to you, Roger, and round of applause for Roger, guys.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Matt. So I'm trying to ask different people to share, and they have no idea I'm going to ask them to share, but I'm doing that just because this is real for all of us, and every one of us who actually wants to just make a shift and realize that these waves aren't stopping. These waves are getting bigger, and these waves are going to be the way we're going to keep experiencing the future as we go forward as well. So what you're seeing here in materialization is kind of interesting, because people were asking me about how do we do things? And again, this is all disposable knowledge, but when I basically said, right, well, one of my big questions is how can I run my global empire from a beach in Bali, which basically was just about reorganizing everything around services that we could then use. We use LifePlan at the moment. We started using that as a way for us to be able to just track our projects. We have BizTree, which has got thousands of all the documents and everything from agreements through to, I'm sharing these, and we'll give you the links to them, because basically if you start by saying, how could I already run things so effectively and efficiently that I'm not there giving myself the excuse that I can't do things, and the answer is going out there and finding the best in the world. You couldn't do this 10 years ago, because to actually go out and get all the top documents in the world would have cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today it's easy because the people doing it have it as a service where they're then basically sharing it on with others who are all just paying a fraction of the cost. So for just less than $200, you've actually got all of the different tools for everything from landlord agreements to license agreements to franchise agreements to employment agreements, every kind of agreement you could ever have, which saves us a huge amount from lawyer fees, but more importantly, tells us what we need in our business. Same in terms of Basecamp, which is our project management. There's lots of project management out there. We chose Basecamp as a way that I can see all our projects everywhere. So whenever we outsource to anybody, all of their emails and information goes in Basecamp in their project. We train anyone who we're going to work with, how we want to work with them. And as a result of that, we never get into a situation where things get out of control or I don't know what's happening. I can see all of it because every single email goes through there. Every single document gets posted up there. And I can just check in any time and see where we're at. And we have a rule with our meetings, which is our meetings should never be any more than once a week. That those once a week that everyone has a specific measure and is sharing what the measure was and how they did on it, what's going great, and at the same time where they need support, and where every single week when we're going through that, we don't spend any time on updates, which means that most meetings are a waste of time where people are just saying, here's what happened last week. But if we all know we've got all the information already, we've got to update ourselves, we can get straight into, okay, here's the challenge, here's the highlight, and that just changes everything. We have our QuickBooks Online, which allows me to look at any of our accounts and any of our businesses online immediately in real time. So the days of month-end accounting are over, because you can actually get minute-by-minute accounting on everything going on in your business. And to not have that at the moment, no reason, because it all exists. So all of this basically then leads on to our CRM system. And we use a number of different ones, but the one we use for our main business is Salesforce, because that links then to our Post Affiliate Pro, which does all of our back-end work on our affiliate program. We've got about 3,500 affiliates, and we've got about 140,000 people we are regularly in contact with on Salesforce, and Inspire is our website. And the reason I'm sharing all of this is that I'm not a technician. I'm not someone who likes to spend lots of time in IT, but I do believe in the waves, and I do want to make sure that we're always up to date with the latest. And I remember back in my late 30s when I had over $250,000 go into a system to build for us to be able to use in our business. And by the time it was complete, we couldn't even use it because the entire industry had moved on so far. And so the days of having to spend huge amounts of money to get systems that are worthy of a big multinational are over. You can get them for a fraction of the price and just pay monthly the service, and they're going to keep it up to date. Do I know if all of these are still going to work for me when we go fully mobile or when we actually have Google Glass? Of course they will, because there'll be developers that will set them up, because I'm not the only one they're serving. They're serving hundreds of thousands of other entrepreneurs, and so there's safety in numbers, where it's now easier and cheaper to get the best in the world working for you. So this is about setting standards of how we want to work with others. We set up this thing, like I mentioned, called iLab, which allows us to do all of this. And we're actually running iLab. Next group that's coming on board is coming board in the middle of May, and then the next group after that in the middle of June. And basically, we're going to have 15 people at any one time that comes to Bali, and where I and our team of experts will show you over a month exactly how you can run your business from a beach in Bali. And by doing this, it actually makes your business run more smoothly. It makes it far more effective, even if you choose to just come back and do exactly what you're doing back here in Melbourne. But you'd now be coming back with your time freedom, because you've now organized your business so that it actually works for you without you having to be there all the time. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, it's possible to do that. So anyone here who's thinking, well, that sounds kind of interesting, I'd be interested to find out exactly how I can run a business from anywhere. Actually, by the way, can I see a show of hands who would be interested to find how they could run a business from anywhere? Okay, great. Well, stay around after we finish today. We'll be finished by about 6 o'clock. Stay behind afterwards, because for about 30 minutes to an hour after that, we will share exactly what we're doing in Bali, how it works, as well as sharing with you exactly what is going to be happening here in Melbourne with something called Entrepreneurs Institute, where we're actually going to be providing support for entrepreneurs here in Melbourne as well. So I'm deliberately making that a separate thing to stay behind for, because I know that those of you staying behind are the ones who are absolutely committed to taking another action, and I want to respect everyone's time. So if that's something you're not interested in, no need to stay behind. But for those who stay behind, we'll be starting after we complete, and we'll be organizing some drinks and things here so that you've got a chance to relax and hear exactly how we're going to go forward, and then take whatever action you choose from there. But still...